Hey there, cold climate gardeners. So, if you are growing in zones 3, 4, 5 and wondering what and if you should be starting anything from seed in February, well, in this video, I'm going to show you what I am starting using my two favorite seed starting methods. So, if this is your first time joining me on my channel, my name is Tracy and I am a cold climate gardener living in Zone 3, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I like to share how you can grow food all year round, even if you live in a cold climate and short outdoor gardening season like I do. And if you've been following me for a while on my channel or part of my gardening community on the school app, you'll know that I love to start seeds indoors using these two methods, and that is the winter sowing method, which is putting a milk jug planted up with seeds out into the snow, and the seedling snail method. So this is where you can roll up some potting soil in a coil like this, plant your seeds in it, and keep them in here right up until transplanting out into the garden. And I just want to say, if you're watching this video right now thinking, oh no, I got to get going, I got to get planting, don't panic. You do not need to start anything too soon. It's always better to start later than to start too soon, because if you start a lot of things too early that are going to be overgrown and leggy and root bound, and if you live in a cold climate, you know that you can't be sticking stuff outside until after you've passed that threat of frost at night, which here in zone 3 is usually around May 15th. So we are still 3 months away from our last frost date. That's the first question you ask yourself. What do I want to grow in my garden this year? And then from there, you figure out, okay, when's my last frost date? Look at the seed packages, Google it, talk to Chat GPT, and figure out how soon before last frost date you need to start them from seed. Some things you may be able to just direct sow right into the ground early spring or when that ground warms up. So if these are things that you're asking yourself, I also want to just let you know I have a free download that kind of answers all those questions, takes you through that step by step so you can figure out what you want to plant, what's the best method to start it from seed as opposed to direct sowing. Is winter sowing a good method to use? Maybe just starting indoors under grow lights is the best method. So this little freebie that I have kind of helps guide you through that depending on what you want to grow. So if you want to check that out, it's a free download. Just click on the link in the description box below. So usually how you figure out what you need to start in February, it's based on seeds that you need to start somewhere between that 10 to 12 weeks before your last frost date. So that would be things like onions. Onions are one of those slow growing vegetables that are good to be, started sooner than most. So usually that 10 to 12 weeks. I'm started one here already, which is a little bit early, but I'm going to start planting my onions in these seedling snails over the next few weeks, all up until the end of February. So peppers are another thing that they recommend you start that 10 to 12 weeks, especially if you're growing hot peppers. They're a little bit slower to grow. They're a little bit finicky. They like to be started in, a warm environment under grow lights. So they require a little bit of babying. And I have found that starting them in a seed snail worked really well for me last year. So then the other method I've been talking about is the winter sowing jug. So this is a great method for perennials because perennials need to go through that cold stratification process. So I am going to be doing poppies, lupins, delphinium, coneflower, sedum, anything that you see has got, the perennial symbol on here. The winter sowing method works really well for them. And in February, late February is a good time to get them set up out in the snow. You got them all covered. They're out of your, you don't have to do anything with it. So that's why I like doing the winter sowing, because it is space saving. I don't have to worry about finding room under my grow lights, looking after all these perennials. They will be much happier going through that natural cold stratification process that they need to. And in the spring, when the time is right, they will germinate and grow. So as far as what I'm going to be doing indoors, it's usually those things that just require a little more hands-on. So the onions, the peppers, of course, if you put them out in a winter sowing jug, they might not germinate. Some onions you could maybe do later on, end of March, you could try it. But I like to get my onions going indoors, and I have quite a few varieties of peppers I want to try. So I'm going to be starting those in the next few weeks using the seedling snail method. Other things that I like to start indoors right now in February are my petunias. They are slow growing. I've collected different colors of petunias from my flowers from last fall. I just threw the seed pods into paper bags, left them all winter, and then a couple weeks ago I just cracked open those pods and sifted them through a fine sieve, and I get tons of petunia seeds that way. They are super easy to collect, and I started some already just so I can show people. But these are my white petunia seeds. You can see that they are very overgrown, and I will need to start thinning them out, and then I will just make sure I have, a nice coil of petunias. These will be able to, grow nicely down here. They got that 6 inches of space. They won't be fighting each other for space, and the roots don't get as tangled in this method. So this is why another reason why I like to use the seedling snail for flowers, because you can get a lot of flowers going. Last year I planted probably a dozen different flower varieties using a snail, and I was able to fit all of them in one of these 10-20 trays. So if you're starting seeds in, like a seed cell tray where you maybe have 72 or 48 cells, they would take up, a whole tray, and maybe you can only get 2 or 3 different varieties of things going. And then, of course, once they get growing, they have to be up potted into 3-inch pots, maybe up into 4-inch pots. So there's a lot of steps involved when you're doing that traditional tray method. Nothing against it. It works. You can start seeds that way if you want, but I find that if you are limited on your space, you only have so many grow lights. You don't want to be buying a lot of stuff or having, a lot of shelving set up. Then, the seedling snail method is a great way to get a lot of things going in a small space. And the thing is about February, you need to have those grow lights to make sure that they're getting enough light. Our days of sunlight are still very short through February into mid-March, so trying to start things in February in a sunny window in our growing zones, 3 to 5 to 6 even, we you just don't they don't get enough light, and you're going to end up with leggy seedlings that are going to grow really tall and try to find that light, and they turn into not very strong healthy seedlings. So again, don't have to invest in fancy grow lights. I just have LED lights here that I purchased from Lowe's. You can get them online, and they work well. You don't need, the pink or blue lights when you're just starting seedlings. They will do okay just under regular LEDs. Snapdragons are a slow to start flower that I like to have a lot of in my garden. And so again, you just check it out on the back of your seed package where it says, it needs that 10 to 12 weeks or 10 weeks before last frost. Do a quick Google search, just get some details on how much time they need to get fully developed before you can transplant them outside. So these are some of the ones I'm going to be doing. Again, I like lots of flowers to put into all my containers. I like to be able to put flowers amongst my garden vegetables to bring in the pollinators and as companion plants. So the more I can get going myself with having to go to a greenhouse to buy those expensive seedlings, this is the way I like to go. Okay, so strawberries is one of the things that I'm going to be starting in February right now. And I'm going to just do a bit of a side-by-side test here. It can be done in 2 different ways. You can start them indoors, and you can use the winter sowing method. So if you're going to be doing them indoors, then they recommend that you do like a stratification mimicking by just putting the seeds in the fridge. I've had them in a wet paper towel for about 30 days. Again, if you're still just thinking about it, there's still time. Don't panic. You could still do this. Take your strawberry seeds, put them in a wet paper towel, put them in the fridge. I just put them in the crisper drawer, mark the date on them, and just, if they can get a 30-day stratification time and then get these planted up early March, you should still be okay. And by doing it this way, you don't have to worry about that part because it's going to happen naturally outside. So we'll start off with our cold stratified strawberry seeds that I took out of the fridge. So yeah, you can see they are super, super tiny. And there's definitely more than 10 here, but I'm just going to do what I can to drop them into the dirt here. It's a little finicky working with tiny seeds. Just kind of make sure I can feel them in my fingers and then just kind of roll them into snail here. And then what I do is, because you don't need to bury strawberry seeds too deep, just pat it down lightly. Then I'm going to use some vermiculite. You can use just seed starting mix if you want to just put a light layer of that on the top, just to kind of cover it, hold in a little bit of moisture. You're going to have to keep it moist from the top, so you don't want to get too close. You want to just place those seeds, but just give it another little spritz here every day. You're going to keep it moist that way. And then until germination, I'm going to just put a baggie under it. Doesn't need to go under grow lights. I'll just set it down here on the bottom and keep it moist each day. Wait till you see germination. Once they start popping up, then I'll put them under the grow lights. So as you can see, there's a lot of maintenance for indoor seed starts. So that's why I'm really excited about the winter sowing method. That it really works well for your perennials, cold hardy stuff like your brassicas, like cabbage and broccoli, cauliflower. But again, I like to just wait a while before I do all of those kind of things. And you can even use this method, late in March, early April for those more tender things. Tomatoes, I've even done tomatoes in this method early April. They stay warm in the jug. It's like a little mini greenhouse. The nights aren't as cold. You can throw a blanket over them if you want. So, if you're not into the indoor seed starting, winter sowing can work for a lot of things. Okay, so we are doing a light sprinkling. Again, I have way more seeds here than probably we need, but we're just going to spread them out as good as we can here. So again, if you want to download those freebies, there is a great guide in there that will give you kind of more ideas of when, how to plant different things in your garden, vegetables, herbs, flowers, whether you can direct sow them or whether it's best to start them by seed indoors. And if you do that download, you're going to get taken to another screen that's going to show you an offer that I have coming up, and that is a Seed to Garden Challenge. So this is something that I'm very excited to have put together. It's a whole series of workshops, recorded videos, some resource documents that takes you through these two methods that I love, the winter sowing, the seedling snail method, how to get started, what's best to plant this method, what's best to plant with the seedling snail method. And then I'm going to be doing live real-time tutorials, recordings of how everything's going for me that I'm going to be sharing inside this module. And I'm inviting people to join in on the challenge so that we can do this together all the way from seed till the time of transplanting in the garden. And I have an intro special right now up until the end of February. It is $39. And this is going to be a module that is going to be full of information, ongoing training. You can do Q&A with me. We're going to try and do live workshops as we go along so that we can kind of share our journey all the way to the garden. So check it out. But please take those free downloads, check them out. And if you're ready for a challenge, take your seed starting to the next level. you might want to join the Seed to Garden Challenge. Okay, so we have sprinkled the strawberry seeds all over the top here. You want to make sure that you mark your jugs so that you know what's in there. I usually do one inside, just stick it in the corner somewhere where I can see it when I'm looking down. And then I also write it on the outside. So again, we are very early into February. You don't have to panic. Go through your seeds, have a look and see what you are wanting to plant out in your garden. Find out if it's something that you should be starting soon in the month of February. And hopefully you will try out these 2 methods that I have shared here. Don't forget to check out the free download. You'll see a lot of times if you've checked out winter sowing that people use duct tape to tape that. I've found that duct tape is really hard to remove in the spring. It gets very sticky and gummy, and it makes the jugs hard to reuse again. I like to be able to reuse as much as I can every year. I find this duct tape works really good. It sticks nicely. You can wrap a couple layers around your jug to secure it, and it's easy to remove in the spring when it comes time to open up your jugs and harden off your seedlings. So that is just a little tip I recommend for your supplies, is to check out this kind of duct tape. Just make sure it is well sealed against that seam that you got cut. And so now you have your mini greenhouse. So all you need to do is find your last frost date, count back on a calendar that 12 to 14 weeks to the period where we are right now, and then start planning out what you need to plant soon. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe and keep watching for more seed starting videos coming to the channel.